Good afternoon, boys and girls, and mommies and daddies, grandmommies and grandpappies. As you remember, today is the day that we are going to finish up on our Easter story. The boys and girls have had such a good time preparing for this. Oh my goodness gracious, the whole forest of people that Mommy Piggy invited they're just having such a good time. Because the woods haven't had a party or an Easter party for a few years now. I don't know how come. Mrs. Farmer Brown didn't tell me how come, but everybody is all excited. So all the families that Mommy Piggy asked to come, if you remember now, that was Rocky Raccoon and his folks, that was Bill Bunny and his two kids, that was Allie the alligator's mom and dad, and it was, of course, Patty Pig's mom. And don't forget, Sally Skunk's mommy and daddy with Sadie. And I think, wasn't Frankie Fox and his folks invited? I think they were. Yeah, they were. So, it's been such a fun time. Well, Mommy Piggy called all the mommies back that afternoon, and she said, now, I would ask you please to boil and color enough eggs that will cover your family, and make sure that you can find your Easter baskets, because we haven't done this for, several years. And if you want to bring a covered dish, I think because of the amount of people that's coming, we probably will need extra food. Now, I will fix the meat like my Uncle Bill did. And I don't know about you, but it was always good, and I'm hoping that mine will be just as good. So all the mamas called her back and said, we would just love to do that, and we can put it in the crock pot or in the oven while we're in church. This is going to work out so good. Well, do you know what the minister did at their church? Because Mommy Piggy had told him that she wouldn't be there for Easter services. He said, well, you know what we're going to do then, Mommy Piggy? We're just going to have sunrise Easter service. Will that help you out? And she said, oh. She said, Pastor Bob, she says, that would be so good. She says, thank you so very much. And if you want to come, you can come too, because we do like your singing. And he just smiled his pretty smile, and he says, well, I just might do that, Mrs. Piggy. Well, here comes Sunday. Well, now the boys got together with Betty and Bobby Bunny, and they colored their eggs yesterday. So, they were tired. They went to bed Saturday night, and they were so tired. Well, Mommy had already made them last Easter their Easter egg shirt. Now, you know how they dress. Piggly always has a yellow shirt with some sort of color, and it depends. It doesn't make any difference what color his little Easter eggs are or the bunny rabbits are. But it does make a difference on the color of the shirt, because Piggly is always in a yellow shirt. Now, we've talked about that. And Wiggly is always in a blue shirt. Squiggly is always in a red shirt. And they're all alike. And the Easter shirts were so cute. They had Easter bunnies hopping around all over their shirts, and they had pretty colored little Easter eggs on their shirts. Oh, they were adorable. They looked so cute. Of course, they're cute little boys anyway. So, they went to church. They went to sunrise services, and Mrs. Piggy was so glad that Pastor Bob did that for her, because she really was kind of missing to go into church. So when she got through, she ran home and she changed clothes, and she told the kids that they had to stay in the house or on the front porch, either one, until Mr. Farmer Brown came around with the school bus and picked them all up. And that's what he was going to do. So she was going to go pick up Mrs. Farmer Brown, because Mrs. Farmer Brown had offered to help set things up. So she was going to go pick up Mrs. Farmer Brown, and then she would pick up Mr. Piggy, Patty's daddy, because you remember he was going to help because he didn't want to go to church. He was kind of iffy on the church. And so She went to pick up Mrs. Farmer Brown, and she went to pick up Mr. Piggy. And out to the woods a little bit further did they go. Oh my goodness gracious. This was the prettiest place that Mommy Piggy knew. And she knew the man who owned the property. And he didn't mind people coming out and having picnics as long as they asked permission. Because what about if they had burned down the forest, the trees? He needed those trees. What about if they had accidentally shot his cow with a bow and arrow while they're playing? So he had to know, and he had to give permission. And he didn't give everybody that asked him permission. He gave just special people. And of course, you know that Mommy Piggy was a real special person. And she even had Mr. Farmer Brown with her. Well, I forgot now when he went out. He was going out later to pick up the kids, but the man who owned the property knew Mr. Farmer Brown was going to be there. So yeah, she got the property. And it was free. He don't charge any rent for that. It was a beautiful, beautiful what they call a cow pasture, boys and girls. And that means that this is a great big piece of land, all pretty and green with grass that the cows love to eat. And the funny thing is, now, they have special places that they walk going to the barn. Now, when they're out grazing in this pasture, they're all over the place. They're just all over the place. But when they're going back to the barn at night, it's the funniest thing because they follow a certain path through this pasture. And now, in the daytime, they're all over the place. But at nighttime, they go doom, 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 doom. Just perfect in a line. Well, Mrs. Piggy said to Patricia's father, Patty's father, she said, we've got so many people coming. She said, I hope this doesn't go past maybe 4 o'clock or 4:30. And Patty's father originally was from the city, so he didn't really know too much about, lighting a fire and cooking outside. And he could build things, but he just really didn't know too much about outside and animals and such as that. So he said, well, why, Mrs. Piggy? And she says, one time I was here, one Easter, she says, and it was time for the cows to come home. And he's looking at her kind of funny. And so she explained to him what the cows do, that they have a certain spot that they walk in. That's kind of like elephants will do the same thing. Well, he just didn't know whether to believe her or not because he'd never heard of such a thing. So they built the fire, and she showed him how to get the palmetto strips from the inside, pull all the leaves off, all the fronds off. And then she showed him how to put them around the fire. The fire by now was going just really good. And then she brought out all the big, long pieces of ribs that she had got from the meat market. And she showed him how to place them on the palmetto fronds all around. And they were going to cook. About that same time, Mr. Farmer Brown comes around the corner, and here comes the kids and the bus and everything. And some of the mothers had brought their own cars, even though the kids were in the bus. They had to bring their own cars so they could get home, because Mr. Farmer Brown didn't need to be lugging them from house to house to house to house, and so they all had their car. Oh, it was a big parking area. Thank goodness it was, because, they had a lot of cars there. So they laid out on a special table that Mommy Piggy had set up. And Mommy Piggy makes all the quilts and everything. Well, some of her quilts she makes on purpose to use outdoors. You can use them at the beach, you can use them on a picnic table, and that's what she does. So her picnic tables always look so cute. Well, you know what Mommy Piggy had. She had an Easter quilt. Big bunnies all over it and Easter eggs and things like that. So she laid the quilt out on the table, and everybody put all their dishes on the table, and she had plates, Easter plates for everybody, and she had Easter napkins for everybody. Oh, she was so prepared. Well, they hungry. They were hungry, especially the kids. You know how kids are. So they were all hungry. Well, they sat down, and they had the bestest dinner you've had for a long time. Well, then it was time to hunt the Easter eggs. And she said, okay, boys and girls. She said, whoever finds the golden egg is going to get a surprise. Oh, boy, they were jumping up and down. And she says, now, wait a minute. She says, there's more rules. She says, whoever has the most eggs in their basket gets a prize. And I don't want you, boys and girls, to be snitching eggs from somebody else's basket. And they all giggled at that. And she says, and you know Sadie Skunk, how itty-bitty, little she is. You remember? She's this itty-bitty, little tiny thing. Well, Frankie Fox and Ollie the Otter are not much bigger than she is. And some of you boys and girls, and she looks at Little Bad Wolf, and she looks at Allie the alligator. She said, you know who I'm talking about. And they all smiled. She says, don't you be tripping over those little ones, and you help out those little ones. And Sadie Skunk, she's so cute and funny. She popped up and she said, I'm going to follow Allie Alligator because I like him, and he always helps me. And Allie the Alligator says, okay. Well, Little Bad Wolf, he says the same thing because that's what she tells Little Bad Wolf sometimes. So between the two of them, Allie and Little Bad Wolf, Sally would be taken care of all day. Well, goodness gracious, Grandmommy's getting wrinkles in her forehead. So they set off for, Mrs. Piggy had one more rule. I forgot that. I knew there was another one. She says, now, boys and girls, I know that if some of you find 26 eggs and some of you only find 7 eggs, what we're going to do is we're going to put them all on the table, and then we're going to divide the number of eggs between the number of families, and that's what you'll go home with. Okay? And they all thought that was a really great idea. So, off they go. Oh my goodness gracious. It was so funny. Now, you know, you have to be careful in the woods where you hide eggs because the snakes might get them or the raccoons might get them. And so you got to be careful where you lay those eggs. Well, Mrs. Piggy, Mama Piggy, she was an old pro at this because this is what her Uncle Bill taught her when she was a little girl. So she knew just how to do everything. Oh, these boys and girls had the biggest fun. And about a half hour later, there comes a great big squeal. That sounded like Sadie Skunk. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Well, before Sadie Skunk's mommy could get out there to her, or Mr. Farmer Brown, or Mama Piggy, here she comes, running as fast as those little tiny legs could carry her. She's just running and running and running. And Little Bad Wolf and Allie the Alligator are right behind her, and they were trying to pick her up to carry her, and she kept slipping out of their hands because she was running so fast. Oh, she was just running so fast. You know what she did? She found the golden egg. Oh, my goodness gracious. She was the happiest little kid you'd ever seen in your life. She was just so happy. So Mrs. Piggy, Mommy Piggy says, oh, my goodness gracious, child. She said, you found my golden egg. And Sadie Skunk says, I sure did. I'm the winner, I'm the winner, I'm the winner. And Miss Mommy Piggy says, well, you go back out and see if you can't find some more eggs. So she gave them another 15 minutes, and they brought all their eggs to her. And she quickly counted how many eggs they had on the table. And she said, okay, boys and girls, there is 7 more eggs to be found. Now, if you don't want to go out and find the eggs, that's okay, because all the little creatures that live out here, they can eat those eggs. But if you want to find the eggs so we have more to take home, go for it. I'll give you 20 minutes to find those 7 eggs. Well, all the kids took off. They wanted to find those eggs. 20 minutes. Boop, boop. She says, okay, 20 minutes is up. Come on back to the table. You know what? 6 eggs were found. Isn't that good? They found 6 of the 7 eggs. Now, I think that was pretty doggone smart. Well, Sadie Skunk sat there so patiently waiting to see what her prize was. Well, the person that found the most eggs in their basket was little Betty Bunny. Isn't that sweet? Because she's one of the newest ones in the forest, and she found the most eggs. She got a $5 bill. Oh my, brand new. Oh, it was so pretty because it had never been used. Oh my goodness gracious sakes. Well, it was now time to tell Sadie Skunk what she had. Mrs. Farmer Brown and Mommy Piggy, they were torn between 2 things to get for the prize. They wanted a new $20 bill, but then they also wanted a silver dollar. Now, boys and girls, I know most of you don't know what a silver dollar is, but way, 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 way back, even before GrandMommy was born, they had a dollar that looked about that big, and it was silver, real silver. It's worth a lot of money today. And Mr. Farmer Brown said he would buy one for the kids. So what they decided to do, since Mr. Farmer Brown wanted to buy one for the kids, and since both Mommy and Mommy Piggy and Mrs. Farmer Brown kind of liked the $20 bill, it wouldn't be good to give this person 2 prizes. So they finally decided on the silver dollar. They were hoping that one of the older children would get the silver dollar because then they might know more what it was supposed to be and how come it was so good. But they took a chance, and it was Sadie, little itty-bitty Sadie, that's only 3 years old. She was the one that found it. So they told her, first they told her what the egg was, and then they told her what the silver dollar meant. Well, the egg, guess what the egg was, boys and girls? Mommy Piggy had to go into Tampa to get this egg from a certain store. This was an ostrich egg. It was about that big. It was huge. She had to have that egg set in the golden color for 2 days because it was so big and so kind of a hard shell, and it wouldn't take the color very good. Sadie Skunk couldn't even carry it. She had to drag it on her basket and across the ground. And finally, Allie the alligator picked the basket up for her because it was so heavy. It was such a big egg. It was almost as big as she was. It was how big it was. So she didn't. She says, an ostrich egg? She says, what's an ostrich? Because, you know, she's only 3 years old, little itty-bitty 3-year-old. Well, they had to tell her what an ostrich was. And, of course, Farmer Brown pulls out his phone, and he gets a picture of an ostrich, and he shows it to her. She says, oh, they got long legs. Is there long legs inside of this egg? And Mrs. Farmer Brown says, no, it's not that kind of egg. It's an egg that you can eat, but we're not going to eat it, so don't think about that, okay? So they all said, okay, they wouldn't think about that. Well, then they told her what the silver dollar meant and how it was worth, what kind of money it was worth. And her mother just said, oh my goodness gracious, Sadie Skunk, we're putting that silver dollar in a box and we're putting it in the dresser drawer where nobody can get it because it's very valuable and I want you to keep that for a long, long time. And so Sadie Skunk says, okay, I will. And all of a sudden, behind him, about 30 feet away, they could hear some thump, 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 thump. Ooh. Uh-oh. The cows were coming. And what? The kitchen table was right in the spot where the path was. I don't know how come Mrs. Patty's, Piggly, Squiggly, and Wiggly's mommy, that was unusual for her to forget that she shouldn't have put the table there because those cows were coming. And she said, quick, everybody, help me clean the table off and move the table and move the chairs out of the way. You men, you get over there and you stomp out that fire. And everybody was going, what? And she says, quick now, do as I said. So all the ladies come running over and they got all their food dishes off the table and they put them over here in the corner and they moved the table over. Oh my gosh, they were working so quick and so hard. And the men were stomping out the fire and pouring water on it. Phew. And about that time, the lead cow with the bell on comes out of the woods. Moo, he says, move out of my way. Well, they all moved out of their way and the cows come through just like they always did. And the kids were fascinated. Oh, they were just so fascinated. They thought this was the greatest thing that ever happened. And so Mommy Piggy explained to everybody, because some of the grown-ups didn't know it either, that's what happens every day when they go back to the barn for the night. And she said, she says, in the daytime, she says, they're all over this pasture. But she says, when they go home to the barn, she says, they follow a certain path. And she says, I was in such a hurry to put the food out and everything. She says, I apologize, folks, for putting our table in the middle of their path. She says, we really should have been over there. And she pointed about 30 feet that direction. Well, it was time to go home. So Mr. Farmer Brown loaded up the table and loaded up the pots and pans and anything that he could put in the back of the bus, and all the boys and girls gave everybody a hug and said, thank you, Mommy Piggy. It was the bestest party we've had for a long, long time. And everybody went home tired and happy and full of Easter egg ribs and grits and potatoes and rice and 4 different kinds of salad, corn on the cob, lemonade. I mean, you name the food and they had that food. Biscuits, oh my goodness gracious. The food was outstanding. Well, GrandMommy will see everybody come Monday, and we'll see what else they're doing. Okie dokie. This has been a little bit long, but it had to be because of what it was. Okay. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and oh, hi, Teresa. Haven't seen you for a long time. So, what was I going to say now? Everybody have a really great weekend. Have a happy, happy Easter. And go to church. Okay? Bye-bye.